Hi and welcome. My name is Chris Donahoe from the U.S. Chamber's Center for Capital Markets Competitiveness, and I'm joined here today by Jim Gilligan, Assistant Treasurer for Great Plains Energy, and he's agreed to join us today for a conversation about some of the challenges that are facing corporate treasurers in today's financial and financial regulatory environment. Jim, welcome. If we can start off, tell us a little bit about your role at Great Plains Energy and your role as a treasurer.
Sure. I'm Assistant Treasurer at Great Plains Energy in Kansas City. We are a holding company for several public utilities. My role within the company is to assure adequate liquidity for the company and also to access the capital markets. I particularly enjoy what I do. I've been there 34 years because it makes a direct impact on the company and the success that we have.
How important is access to that credit and the cost at which you can access that credit to your company?
It's very important in our industry. We are very capital intensive, so access to liquidity in the capital markets is number one for us. So currently, with the regulatory regime that is happening in Washington, we're seeing pressures on pricing as well as availability of credit, which are concerning to us and could have very dire consequences for us and our customers.
You mentioned some of these pressures that are being applied to the credit markets, possibly as a result of some of the things that are happening here in Washington. What are some of those things that are happening here in Washington that you think are applying pressure or having unintended consequences on your ability to finance your operations?
Well, without a doubt, the primary causes of pressure on credit and availability is Dodd-Frank reforms as well as money market reforms and Basel III requirements that are imposing capital requirements on banks that are pretty onerous and being passed down to corporates.
You know, in addition to the importance of credit access for your company, I know you also work with a lot of financial institutions that provide a portfolio of services and products that help you manage the daily financial operations. Can you explain a little bit more about how that works?
Sure. Our financial partners provide us, again, with a variety of services and products. First and foremost is credit, and then from there we go into such services as cash management, commercial paper offerings, capital market, equity and debt financings.
Yeah, you know, the list of products that you just laid out for us, I know that's extensive and can go on much further. And in our experience here at the Chamber, we've seen over a number of years each of those products and services kind of come under the microscope of financial regulators here. And I'm wondering whether you would support kind of a review of the cumulative impact of financial regulations across that whole portfolio of products.
I absolutely would, Chris. And what we're seeing right now in the financial services sector is that we have a tremendous pressure from banks on corporates to provide ancillary services to give ancillary services to the bank to offset the costs of capital that they are incurring due to the additional regulations that Basel III and Dodd-Frank have imposed on the banks. Now, this has had an impact for us because of pricing right now, but I think we're just seeing the beginning of more consequences, particularly a restriction on credit going forward.
Jim, you mentioned earlier this tightening of the credit market and how some of the maturities of the products and services that you use every day have been shortening. Can you explain a little bit how that's impacted your company's ability to plan for long-term growth and to finance the capital required to fund that growth?
Well, if you think about corporate treasury, there's really a short-term focus and a long-term focus. So what has happened with Dodd-Frank and Basel III has pushed banks to have a short-term focus on terms of their extension of credit to customers. And so we are in turn forced to look short-term rather than long-term ourselves. So we see pricing increasing on both ends of the spectrum, albeit not huge right now because of the low interest rate environment, but as we expect interest rates to normalize, we'll see that having a deeper impact as we go forward.
Sure, that makes sense. You certainly have no shortage of challenges ahead of you. If you could speak to Congress or some of the financial regulators that are impacting financial institutions that you work with as partners, what would you want these policymakers to know, and perhaps what changes would you like to see?
You know, I'm struck personally by the lack of transparency of Congress and going to Main Street and corporate America to actually find out what the ramifications of some of these regulations are on capital formation and the success of corporations in America. I think what needs to be done is that Congress needs to work together, reach across the aisle, have honest discussion with the impact of these regulations and what it's doing, and see if we can't change some of the things that we've already done.
I appreciate that. And I know you appreciate the importance of coming to DC and speaking to regulators and policymakers here about what you do every day and how that affects your company's ability to grow. I appreciate the time you took today to speak with us and look forward to working with you in the future.
You're welcome. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jim.